All right. Well, hello, everybody. Happy Monday night to you. Welcome to the Royal We Live. We're starting about 15 minutes later tonight, and that is my apologies for that. Had to get some stuff together, and but we're going on. We're going strong. We're going live. We're going to be here to talk about narcissistic abuse, and also take some phone calls and talk with all of you about what's going on. So be sure to sign on. I don't see anybody on as of right now, so I'm going to wait a few minutes to see if anybody signs on. There's Tanya. What's going on, Tanya? It's good to see you. We'll wait for a few more minutes for some people to sign on here. While I plug in the last bit of what I got to plug in here, which is the telephone. That's an important thing in case you all decide to call. How is everybody doing tonight, by the way? I hope you had a great weekend, as festive of a resurrection weekend as possible, being on quarantine. I didn't do too much of anything. We've just been processing and kind of mourning the loss of my dad. He passed away at the beginning of the weekend, and so we've been just processing that. And I made a lot of phone calls, calling aunts and uncles, and very interesting. I'll share a little bit about that experience with you. I think it's important for us to talk about that. In fact, I'll open up with that right now with the Royal We phone call. Turn down that heavy metal music. It doesn't seem appropriate for this time, but that is the Royal We Live intro music, so we're just going to go with that for now. And plus, it's one of Tanya's favorites, right, Tanya? Boo, 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 boo. Hi, Kevin. I'm nobody. Squeaky79. You're somebody here. Never say you're nobody. And by the way, everybody, feel free to post questions in the chat here if you have any questions or conversation starters or things that you're going through with narcissism or anything pertaining to the show. You can do that in addition to calling in to talk. This is an opportunity for you to call in, share a little bit about what's going on. Let's work through some things and talk through some things about your situation. You're welcome to do that. Telephone number is on in the back, and so that's what we got going on. Now, this weekend I spent time calling a lot of family members and aunts and uncles. My dad has brothers, older brothers, and a sister. What I struggled with, I'm going to be honest. I'm honest. I've got to be honest with you, the Royal We family. Ever since I dealt with the narcissism and narcissistic abuse from siblings, which triggered things in me from my childhood, abusive step-parents, abusive, even my dad and his imperfections as I was growing up, which I've long forgiven him for, and we had a working, functioning relationship. It was distant, but towards the end, the last few years, especially after I had kids, my dad really came around. He could not wait to be a grandfather. It's just something you ignited in him, and he was just a big ball of love. And that kind of goes to this question of, can narcissists ever change? And I would say that there was aspects of my dad that did indicate narcissism, especially earlier on in life. He married my mom pretty young, had us as kids, and then he was off doing his own thing, which, during that baby boomer era, I think that all parents probably were. In California, like I was talking with Tanya, over the weekend. Thank you again, Tanya, for giving me a call over the weekend. But Tanya and I were talking about how, that generation, it was just so much free love, man, and they were hippies. So it wasn't like they really viewed marriage and stuff as important as the free love that was available to the hippies out there. I would consider that a form of narcissism, to kind of ditch out on your family. Well, it is what it is, to ditch out and to pursue things that please you more. And so I've always wrestled with that with my life, but throughout my life. But as I said, my dad really came around, and as I grew up, I no longer needed a dad, but I loved that he loved and had great joy in his grandbabies, and he also loved me, and I loved that, and we had a lot of great talks, and so we patched up a lot of things, and I was able to see, actually over Christmas when I visited him, I was able to see him break down and feel remorseful over the lot of things that he has been through in his life. It was a beautiful moment that we shared together. um, I'm not telling you this to indicate to you that it's possible for the narcissist you're dealing with to change. Some of you have parents who maybe that will never happen. I'm just sharing with you that this was my story with my dad. But my dad was never the real reason I was in pain. It was my stepdad who was the yeller, screamer, cusser, punching holes in the walls, verbally abusing my mom, verbally abusing us. That's different. So it's kind of different. And I, through this looking glass, through this lens, I personally took a different approach to abuse. I know, yes, it's abusive when somebody just leaves and pursues their own selfish things. Okay. That would have been my dad early on, just he was restless. He left. But my dad was not a yeller, screamer, cusser, spitting in people's faces. And so I didn't, even though my dad was gone, I still longed for a relationship with him. And I really only looked at abusive people. And you'll see the royal we. I tend to gravitate towards acknowledging abuse as being the types who yell and scream and cuss and punch holes in the walls and want to fight and want to bully. To me, that's what abuse is. To me, for some reason, people who leave, I look at leaving and walking out as a better option to sitting there and fighting and yelling and screaming and cussing and all that. I do. I don't necessarily think it's always right, but I don't look at that as necessarily abusive. It can be. It can be when it's constant leaving and coming, and definitely it can be. But anyways, I'm off on a tangent on that. Needless to say, I patched, I've always had a longing to be with my dad and close to him because he's just he's a great man. He's funny, charismatic. He's the life of the party. No, he's not very stable. No, he wasn't there very much when I was a kid. But when I was with him, he was just 100% just there and with me. And it was amazing. And I think that's why it always kept me longing for a relationship with him, as opposed to the stepdad who was yelling, screaming, and verbally abusing everybody in the house. But at any rate, after I experienced the yelling, screaming, verbal abuse, name calling, that type of stuff with my wife's family, the siblings, and it brought back that those triggers of abuse, the bullying type abuse again, and it changed me. It did, Royal We family. It took me from being this for a long time through high school. As soon as I was able to get out of the house, get away from my mom and her second husband, my stepfather, as soon as I was able to get out of there, chains broke. I no longer lived in fear. But what I did is I pretended that I thought that was just an isolated incident. Oh, I just had a bad stepdad, but the majority of the world's not like that. And I lived this carefree life, and I would talk to anybody. I had so much joy. Once I experienced it and saw it again in my wife's siblings, the name calling, bullying, wanting to get in your face, and really just tearing you down, tearing your character down, it kind of made me quiet. It made me more distant. It put me in this place where I stopped wanting to talk about people. It put me in this place where I lost hope in humanity. And I'm sure out of some of the Royal We videos, you can probably get that, right? I really took this approach of, 50% of the world is all bad. And and because of, I make the whole connection between Cain and Abel, representing the first two human beings born on this earth. And what's the representation there? Half is good and half is bad. One wants to do the right thing. The other one is a murderer. Those are the very first examples of flesh born on the earth, according to the story. Adam and Eve don't count, right? Because Adam and Eve were created, according to the story, created by the hands of God. So they're not. So Adam and Eve would be considered half human but half divine, right? Because neither one of them had a birthing process. Neither one of them were formed in the way that we are. They were literally knitted together by the hand of God in the flesh, okay, without having parents. So I don't look at them as the first two humans born on earth. I look at Cain and Abel as the first two humans that were born as a result of the man's seed and the woman's seed, right? And so in this example, we have a murderer and we have a good. And I think this sets the stage, personally, I believe it sets the stage for the entire world, where you're going to have an equal amount of good in the world, and you're going to have an equal amount of atrocity, evil, murder, slander. And I think it's personally, I believe it's fair to say, if you watch the news, and that it's real. I mean, how many people right now at this moment are experiencing abuse in your neighborhood? You'll never know. The chances are a lot, right? So, at any rate, I really took that. It changed. Dealing with my wife's siblings really changed my view. It started to cause me to look heavily into that. It caused me to put two and two together. My step parents, my wife's siblings. I took this view of a lot of humanity. I started to get into black and white thinking. You're either good and you're trying to heal and you're trying to be kind, or you're an abusive, loud bully, name-calling, cussing person. And if you're that person because you don't care about anybody but yourself. You have no empathy. You really don't care. And I still struggle with these thoughts, right? When I think of my wife's siblings, they can say all day, that they love their sister, and I don't believe it. My stance is, if you love your sister, you wouldn't attack her husband. You know what I mean? Does that make sense to you, the Rowe family? If they loved their sister, then they would not disrespect what their sister loves the most, which is her family. But as it is, they disrespect her family. They hate the fact that she's married. They can't stand, me, and they let it verbally be known, and in a very aggressive, hostile, bullying way. And that's what narcissistic abuse to me is, and no amount of trying to talk to them and trying to communicate with them will change that. It just, that's their position, because they think, and they accuse me of thinking I'm better, but they're the ones in their loud verbal, constant aggression. They're the ones that think they're better. It's so crazy. But anyways, so I took this position. I just shied away, went into isolation from that, stopped reaching out to people. And the reason I'm telling you all this, back to the original story, what I was getting at was, it was difficult for me to want to call my dad's brothers and sisters. I didn't want to. A certain type of laziness sat in, and I didn't really want to reach out to them. And I realized at that moment, I have to do this. I have to call them. It doesn't matter that I haven't talked to them in a long time. I mean, this is my dad's brothers and sisters. I'm my dad's firstborn son, and I've got to call them and see how they're doing. And I'm sure they want to talk to me as well. And so I called them. I did. I just went through it, and I did it. I turned off that bit for me that has been wanting to stay away from people coming out of narcissistic abuse. And maybe many of you are still there. You come out of narcissistic abuse and you kind of want to stay away from people. You want to stay in your safe bubble, And I've been there for many years. And with the exception of being here on the Royal We and talking with you as the Royal We family, as far as the relationships that I've had, the family dynamics that I've seen, relatives and stuff like that, the things that I have in a way preached, not against, but when we talk about family, many of you have heard me talk about how the whole blood connection is not, I don't buy that it's as important as culture likes to tell you. It's shoved down our throats that, oh, you better always be there with your mom and dad and siblings. And I'm here with the Royal We saying, no, if your family are absolute nuts and abusive, get the heck away from them. There's no rule or biblical principle or anything that says you have to stay with abusive family members. And so, but I've taken that and I just really isolated myself and have stayed away from everybody. But when my dad just died this past weekend, I felt led to reach out and call them. And a part of me said, I just felt like it was something I need to do. Something needs to break inside of me as an individual. And yes, it's great to continue to help people out of relationships, but at the same time, I needed to break something that I was that I struggle with. I need to step outside of my comfort zone, and that's make a phone call to, some people I haven't talked to in a long time, and from some things that I've seen in my youth growing up, and so I did that. I broke that. Had a great conversation with them, and so it was a good thing to do. But I'm not so necessarily focused on reestablishing any connection with them. This is important. I did not contact them to establish any kind of a new friendship or relationship. I strictly called them because I felt it was appropriate because of my dad dying. And also keep in mind, too, that there was no abusive anything going on with these people, okay? If there was, I would not have called them. This was just simply people who I haven't talked to in a long time, okay? So let me clarify that. But I did, and I want to get used to breaking that. Like I said, I know I've been in isolation for a long time because of narcissistic abuse. Many of you have, but I want to break that, especially if I feel led to move on with the royal we, becoming more and stepping into more of a ministry, if you will. I better get used to doing that. Getting more comfortable in dealing with and reaching out with people personally, not just hiding behind a camera and screen so much. You follow me on that, Roy family? Does that make sense? It's good to be able to challenge myself in that way. So, at any rate, that's what I was going to share with you. I was excited to share that with you tonight. And I know that we got started late here, but now I want to see what's going on with you and see what's going on. Oh, one of the things I do want to also talk about. I'm quickly looking through here to Oh, we do got a phone call. You're live on the Royal We.
Good evening, Kevin. This is Antonio Silva from Pennsylvania.
Antonio, how you doing, man?
Maintaining as best I can be in light of what's been transpiring worldwide. So, first, though, before I overlook this, I did want to extend to you belated condolences on your father's death. I can empathize and relate. With 2020, about 10 years ago, my father died. He actually died in front of me. So I just wanted to extend that to you, and you're in my prayers.
Thank you.
For you and your family as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do.
So you're welcome. You're welcome. So, how are you otherwise when it comes to what's transpiring? How you and your family holding up?
With my new family?
Yeah, I mean, how are you and your family holding up in the light of what's been transpiring worldwide? Are you holding up well?
Yeah, we're fine. I have as far as that goes, we're playing it by ear. There's a lot. Obviously, we all have a lot of questions about it, about the illness, about what it is, about what I mean. I've started to take on a different name for it. I call it the booga flu, and because it's kind of it's a booga booga. It's all fear. Don't let the booga flu get you. And I think booga flu sounds more sounds better than COVID-19, but I don't, it's just crazy to me. I hear about people getting sick, but I don't know anyone personally who's been sick. I see some videos on Facebook, and then I hear those videos were lies. I see one girl. I saw there was a big news story about a girl who claimed to be a nurse, saying that the nurses are getting sick and there's not enough masks and don't don't go out, don't do. And then there's videos saying, well, that was a bunch of BS. That girl made that up. She's not a nurse anywhere. And so we live in this society, in this culture where it's very hard to decipher the truth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have news showing us hospital rooms where people are falling over dead everywhere. We got people posting videos, and you don't know the sources, of body bags stacked in a hallway saying this is the hospital. And then you have people with their cell phones in New York walking by the hospitals, and there's not a single soul standing anywhere.
Right.
So so you got the news source making it out like there's lines of people, and then you got people going, where is everybody? Is it too early? Are they just not awake yet, or are they all in body bags? Are they all in body bags already? Are we too late? So this is just like I said, it's just weird, and all we can do, and for me personally, this is a scary part, but all we can do is go by what the federal government and the medical industry is telling us. And if that means, if they tell us we can't go to work, what are companies to do? Their hands are tied. So whether or not people are sick or not, if they're not an essential business, I mean, what are they going to do? Get tickets and get fined because they're like, listen, we can operate. Nobody's sick. No, you can't. No, you can't. This thing is so big, bad, and scary that you're shut down for months, and you have to do it, or we'll put you in jail. And that's just kind of a weird thing for me. It's kind of a weird thing for all of us to experience. And like I said, I'm in no way, shape, or form indicating that there is no sickness, because there probably is. I'm just saying that have we ever seen anything quite like this, where our hands are kind of being twisted behind our backs about this whole thing? Nope, haven't ever seen anything like that either. So, very wild. Very wild.
And again, each person has to make their determinations, and I certainly am not going to take the tack that the federal government is doing by basically infringing upon everybody. I mean, I'll make this correlation or this equivalent when we talk about our own experience personally with those we come across that, again, we had no business being involved with, going places we should never have been going, doing things we never should have been doing, yet we find out how abusive and how demanding and dominating and controlling they want to be. So if we would not want that to be done in our personal lives and the risks of our own preservation and well-being, then if we know that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, then why would we want to ever be associated with those who just seek to reach for the ring of power? I'd also say that the very spirit of liberty, that liberty that we are given by God, is resistance, and nobody has a right to take away. Nobody has a higher claim upon anybody else's life if you don't have a higher claim on their life. So just the things for food for thought. I again keep it. I know God is in control. I trust in that in the name of Jesus. I won't, like, for example, if someone I know in my own personal life, there are people that are just, abiding, submitting to, accepting, whatever, obeying, however you want to say it, these mandates and such. Well, you know what? See, I don't go along and do the same. If I see their tactics being immoral, I'm talking about those who are pressing this upon us, then I won't sit there and do the same. So you express that, well, then I'm going to, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess you say, give that courtesy and kindness. I will not, just I disagree. I'm not going to impose I don't really care if you want a social distance. I can't really stand that word either. It's an oxymoron, by the way. So basically,
it is
I'm just
social
going to
distance.
live out my life and live out and exercise liberty, and I just ain't buying what they're selling.
Yeah.
So other than that, though, I mean, on a personal level, I just wanted to kind of, and I'll leave it at this. For me, I did go back onto recently social media after being off for 6-7 months, pray before going back on, and that is where I met the one I was once with. That's how I how she made herself known to me.
Okay.
And the first thing I did was block her and anybody else that could possibly be toxic to me, that could be associated and whatnot. Well, and my prayer before was, okay, I'm going on here. The main purpose is, okay, I feel like I can go back on here. The reason I was on there before, because I am a professional wrestling fan, and I enjoyed a particular wrestling. His name is Matt Hardy.
Right.
And I actually, through the time I was on there before, actually ended up becoming friends and meeting him. Now I go back on there and I say, okay, maybe I can reestablish these things. And however, Lord, if you do not, if this is not of your will, you'll let me know. And it wasn't too long before I took into consideration something I didn't really harp upon before I went on. I was like, well, I blocked her. I wonder though, can she, might there be some flying monkeys that might sit there and let her know I'm back on, that kind of stuff. So I was able to circumventally, just because it's like, okay, I don't want her to have any access to me whatsoever, found out that she had been getting intel that I was on there, and basically opened up a whole litany of, smear campaign, character assassination. So basically I don't need to be on there, and I ended up deactivating, leading to the deletion. It's basically, I don't need to be on there.
Right.
I don't need anybody validation. She wants to be on there and use that to be her. You know what I mean? It's like, no. And I went up there. I went back on there, and I had established some acquaintances and some allies within there back when. And I felt, okay, look, I'd let it be known I was with her on there. That was publicly known.
Right.
And then I said, you know what? I felt it. I owed people. It's like, if what ended up happening, what I allowed myself to do, and all that. It's like, well, I don't want to go out there with any false pretenses. It's like, so if you don't want to give me back your support here, I don't want you to not know that this happened. I have to own what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what kind of led to her, being made aware of things. And then it just opened up. It's like, well, you know what? I did that out of what I felt was an obligation. When I left in silence.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't need to do that. You know what I mean? So,
gotcha.
So otherwise, and then also, over the past few months, I've come to realize that my own sibling, my sister, and she's been through her own turmoils. It's come to find out that over the time, she may have also become, again, what I can go from my own personal experiences, she may also have is perhaps unstable, toxic, narcissistic too, and that's a heartbreak because she's my youngest sister, and it's just like however, I will not. Once I see these, again, the red flags, it's about the red flags.
Right.
I overlooked them before, and it cost me much. I'm not going to, and I'm seeing it again. So I basically put the kibosh on that and say, look, you're going to be in this way. You're going to continue with these unacceptable behaviors and mannerisms and traits, and I can't have that in my life.
Yeah.
So there's,
and that's all you can do. That's good. That's good. That's it. That's it. Right on. So, well, listen, I'm glad you called.
I just wanted to just check in and give you those kind of insights, and also again just reiterate, blessings to you and your family.
Thank you.
And again, my condolences, and
thank you.
May the peace of God be with you, and may He give you peace that surpasses all understanding at this time.
Thank you, Antonio. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right,
Have a good night.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
You got it. Bye.
That thank you so much, Antonio, for calling, and a lot of things that crept up in my thought process while he was talking to me, and one of them had to do with the social media and the affirmation that you can look for on social media. So how many of you were here this past week when I was talking about my father passing away Friday? It was fresh. It was brand new. And by the way, thank you so much to the Royal We community here. You were very supportive. And thank you, Tanya, for calling me, over the weekend as well. I appreciate that. And, those of you who are here, you'll remember that one of the things that got to me, and it shouldn't have, that the primary focus should have been my dad's passing and mourning that. But how many of you remember me talking about something else that got into my mind, got back into my adrenals, right? And for those of you who weren't here, what happened was my wife's siblings, the ones who have made it verbally clear that they do not like me, they went on social media and they went to my brother's profile and offered their condolences. My wife's siblings offered their condolences on my brother's profile, right? Probably knowing that I would see it. Probably not caring. I don't know, because it's the mindset of narcissism. You don't know if they're being genuine and really want to put out their condolences, or if they're being deliberate. I don't care about offering condolences, but I want, Kevin to see this. I don't know. Okay, but here's the issue. For those of you who, it became such a battle within me. Why? Is I was there talking with family members on social media, which is why I stay off of social media, because you see these things and you don't quite know what to make of it. And when I saw them do that, I was like, wow, man, it just hurt. But a part of me struggled with wanting to say something to them, something to the extent of sending a message saying, hey, listen, it is my dad too, and I am your half sister's husband. Did you forget about that? I'm not worthy of your condolences, but my brother is, who you don't even know, right? So, I thought about that, but to Antonio's point, as he was just talking with me, is there's an element there of affirmation, and I'm so happy that Antonio said that. He said, I don't need social media to get my affirmation. And it just rung out of my head. Kevin, why do you need? So they commented on your brother's post and not yours. Once again, it should, if anything, it should just be affirmation that they're not a part of my life and I'm not a part of theirs. If they want to pursue a relationship with my brother, more power to them. But I can assure you this. I can assure everybody this. And my brother is just like me. They mouth off. They even hint at being smart alecky or calling them names. They're done instantly. Just like with me. You don't treat people like that. So the only reason they're able to communicate with my brother, the youngest girl, anyways, Lacey, the only reason she's able to say that to him is because I realized that she doesn't even know him. They don't know each other. So how easy and convenient for narcissistic personality types to put something, and this is how they get along in life. You'll notice that they're very sweet, but they're sweet only to people who don't really know them. They build, but eventually, if those people decide to get close, they will run their course in that relationship and ruin it too. I mean, many of you want to know, how do you warn people about narcissists? Many of you who haven't had narcissistic exes or bosses, and you're like, how should I warn them? How should I warn them? How can I tell them? I've got a new standard. I've got a new answer. Encourage them to get wrapped up in the relationship with them. Don't warn them. Do the opposite. Say, no, go get close. Go hang out. Go visit them. Go stay with them. Go visit. Go visit them every week. They're so cool, so awesome. I know it's lying, but just say that. No, they're so awesome. Because that will be the surefire way for them within a few months to see the true colors. And they'll be running out. And then you can reconnect with those people and say, yeah, you like that? Right? That's what I dealt with. Right? So I just thought it's kind of funny. Just tell them, yeah, if you want to warn them, tell them to go have a relationship with them, Say, sure, go for it. And no, but I've talked to my brother. I'm like, why is she commenting? My brother reassured me because I was really furious when my wife's siblings did that. When that girl, her little sister did that, and I was telling my brother's like, Kevin, don't worry about it. We don't have a relationship at all. Never talk with her. I know how they treat you, but we don't have a relationship, So in fact, my brother contacted me immediately. He said, Kevin, please, don't say anything on my social media. Don't start an argument or fight. It's not the time. Our dad just died. It's not the time. But I want to let you know that so and so offered me their condolences. So my brother's real cool about it. He doesn't care. He's like, I don't care. We don't know each other. And I had to come to the understand that the only reason she was able to do that is because they don't know each other at all. And so narcissists typically do that. But, again, though, to Antonio's point, I don't need that affirmation. I don't need my wife's family's condolences, period. I don't need my siblings' condolences. I really don't. I didn't even realize that it didn't become an issue until I saw it on my brothers. That's when I was like, hey, not fair, And so that's kind of the issue within my own heart. And many of you would say, well, it is weird. It is unfair. It's lame, Kevin. It is. You had a right to look at it as lame. Of course, we all know that. But at the same time, if I quiet down that need to have anything to do with those people, then it's no more or less than any of the other people who offered my brother condolences, who I don't know, who he knows. Does this make sense? I don't care of the condolences that any of his other friends, personal friends, offered him. So I shouldn't care about them, my wife's siblings, because I've made the decision not to have them in my life, and this is what it looks like. And so I have to be able to do that. Does this make sense to you? We have to be able to accept that part of it. Once we make that decision, they're not going to be in our life. I don't call them aunts and uncles to my kids. I don't have to. So they don't have to give me condolences. They can give my brother condolences. That's fine. Does this make sense to you? I don't need the affirmation either. And it's silly to step out of that now as I'm talking to you and say, man, I didn't need their affirmation. It was silly to be upset over that. It really was. And in line with that, I've had conversations with myself. Cindy asks Wiseman, how does your wife get along with them? Very distantly. Very distantly. You know, they launched their attack against me, but what they managed to do in the process of attacking me was what narcissists are so good at doing is instantly turn and be very sweet towards my wife, towards their sister, their half-sister. And also, their words and the abusive stuff would typically be when she wasn't around. Okay? So she didn't really see it. And so what I noticed about the whole dynamic of that family, and again, it's they're half siblings, okay? My wife and her siblings share a dad. That's the extent of their relationship, okay? What I noticed about the whole dynamic was that my wife's relationship with him is very distant. It's a shallow relationship. It's not that deep. It really isn't. It consists of my wife and them saying, hi, I love you, and that's it. And then they won't talk for months. And I realize now that you can have a relationship with narcissists if that's it. And many of you, and even me, still have ongoing relationships with narcissists in that manner, and we probably don't even know it. Wow. Think on that. Some of the people in your life who you know, who the extent of your relationship is, hi, how are you? Love you. Haven't talked to you in 3 or 4 months. Haven't talked to you in 6 months. Everything cool? Right on. Man, you have no idea. You could be dealing with one of the most toxic, abusive people out there, but because of the relationship dynamic and how it is, you wouldn't know it. And so anyways, my wife has that relationship with them. I didn't realize to what extent that was until I moved to St. Louis, brought my family out of California. We moved to the St. Louis area, and they never talk. None of them. My wife is, they're never on the phone. I have never heard my wife have a phone conversation with her half-sisters, her half-brothers. None of them. They just don't have that kind of family. And so this makes me realize another thing I want to share with you. Again, how many of you realize that narcissistic abuse takes two people, right? Narcissistic abuse doesn't exist in a void. It's not just them, it takes two. I had a part in it. And you all are saying, Kev, you seem like a cool guy, a friendly guy. Well, my part in it was that, yeah, I am. But in that coolness and desire to get along and this and that and be the good Christian guy or whatever, I could become a little bit too intimate, too fast, kind of pushy about it. Hey, let's get together, guys. What's going on? How are you? How's life? How you doing? Everything cool? Can I pray for you? You want to talk about stuff? And I think in a lot of ways, they did look at that in their own narcissistic ways. And I realized that I was trying to have a deeper relationship than even my wife has with them. So, I think that's where a lot of the abuse came from. I should have never tried to surpass my wife's dynamic with her own siblings. This makes sense to you? And I think that's what I was doing. I was overshooting. I was playing this guy who could bring the whole family together. And my wife tried warning me, in the beginning. She's like, have they, they're kind of all over the place. I'm like, nah, I could bring it all together. I'll tie this whole thing together. We'll have a good old time, man. I love myself a family. and they love me. And I was just, what a wake up call. It's like God said, man, you had no business going in there, trying to change the dynamic of their family. And I didn't try to intentionally. I just was trying to be the pulling everything together. That's not what they want. All right. They're happy in their fighting and arguing and yelling and screaming and cussing. So I get that now. Who am I to change it? And so part of that is I step back now and look at that dynamic of the relationship. Man, I just got to tone down. I got to step away from them completely, and which I've done. And, not allow myself to be called names or cussed at by them, but just understand that happens when I typically go to their territory, right? So I don't go to their territory anymore. Right? How many of you are aware of that? Narcissists typically are mostly abusive in their territory. They tell you they want you over, they invite you over, but then they abuse you, right? So the power that we have and the power that I have is just to say no. All right? Now I know how you are. I don't know what you want me over there for. You don't want a relationship. I like to talk, I like to resolve things. I don't like being around cussing and name calling, which is what you guys like to do. So it's better we just don't even have a relationship. And actually, as I've stood back and watched how they interact, how my wife interacts with them, and the relationship is very small. There's nothing there. It is what do you call it? It's just a dry bone relationship. There's no meat. There's no substance to the relationship whatsoever. There's just not. Hope that makes sense to you all. And So I have to be, and so I'm learning to be okay with that. It's fine. I get it. And I will never again try to surpass my wife's dynamic with them. I will just be off in the distance, and that's my attitude now. My wife has full permission to have whatever kind of relationship she wants with them. But even with that, she doesn't, I think in the back of my wife's mind too, she also is aware now of the pain and the hurt that they've caused. And I believe also that they are aware. Yes, even narcissists, I believe they're aware. They know that there was a time where we were excited and I was excited to be around them. They know the way in which they address me and talk to me, and they know that we're now gone. I mean, it doesn't take geniuses or rocket scientists to put two and two together. And they could sit there and say all day long and point the finger at us saying, well, that's the problem. And he took our sister away and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, they got to sleep with themselves every single night. And I know inside, and it will forever haunt narcissistic people and bullies for that matter. They're haunted by this on a daily basis. I lost another relationship. Makes them in a lot of ways more angry. It makes them more conniving. It makes them more a lot of times they put on even more of a mask. They feel they have to. When they push another relationship away, they have to fake it again of how sweet they are, right? It must be exhausting. As I think about it, being narcissistic must be a very exhausting thing. Trying to always quickly put out that the other person is wrong and trying to make up stories. And I mean, I imagine it's constantly, being a narcissist is probably like looking over your back. You know what I mean? Looking over your back constantly of who you have to try and fight off or run away from, or who might come back to get you. It must be horrible. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, everybody's saying it's bedtime. It's my bedtime too. Man, more deep talking with the Royal We family. And hopefully you all have a great night. And I'm so happy that you're here. I didn't get to check out I got caught on a ramble. All right. I'll take one more phone call here briefly, because we're all getting tired here. You're live on the Royal We. Hello.
Oh, hi there.
Hi there. You're live.
Thanks. Sorry, I was watching yesterday's show and I thought it was live. Anyway, this is Brenda. I'm calling from Victoria, BC.
Yeah.
I may actually be talking about a different topic. What I just saw you mentioning was how, the narcissists in the family, they'll do things to push you away.
Right.
And then when you go away, they're outraged. And I hope it's okay if I just talk briefly on that. That was my experience with my sister and my mom all my life.
Right.
They'd just be verbally abusive, the whole typical narcissist abuse. And when I finally stopped calling them and wouldn't go to family dinners and that, I was criticized. They would say, how could you treat us so shabbily and ignore us? You think you're better than us. And I remember it just made me feel so crazy.
Yeah.
And it would cause me to doubt reality of what I had done, what they'd said. And I basically wasted decades trying to figure them out. And the best thing I ever did, Kevin, was I cut them off, and I have not seen them again for decades. And it's sad and it hurts, but the pain of that is less than the pain and misery of staying with people like that. And I would just encourage any other people. I guess it's all individual, but for me, my only regret is I didn't do it when I was a young woman instead of waiting till I was in my 60s. Anyway, thanks for taking my call. I think, like I said, it's the wrong show, but I hope there's some value to what I said, help other people.
Oh, it is, definitely.
And thanks for taking my call.
Right on. Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. All righty, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Yeah, I mean, you can't you can't do the whole back and forth thing. Narcissists, it's just real bipolar and weird. We love you, but their actions don't show it. They're cold, nasty to you, vindictive, fight starting, And so, but to wrap this show up, I think all in all, what I'm learning through this process is to completely be independent of like what my wife's siblings think, what the abusive people that I have experienced in my life growing up think. You have to be completely independent of it. It just doesn't matter. Thank God that they're not in your life. And I know that a lot of us still walk thinking that they're in our life. I think that one of the issues that I struggled when I saw my wife's siblings, half siblings, offer my brother condolences in regards to my dad's death, what it really did was trigger something in me that says, you're not away from them, Kevin. Right? You can never quite get far enough away. They will not cease to exist, right? They're going to pop up right in your face and say, hello, we're here, Kevin. Remember me? And I think that what I'm learning in this process with that is to just detach to the point where, I see you, but you're not in my life, so that's fine, whatever. What you do, who you talk to anymore does not matter. Because I have to also understand that they could never, they can't affect my life anymore. Narcissists require participation in order for your life to be affected. This is true, right? Either mental participation, and that's the path I started to go. I started to mentally give them that power. How dare they talk to my brother, not me, blah, 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 right? When all I have to do is simply go, okay, weird, next, and not even look at it. Pretend it didn't happen, act like they just don't exist. They're not in my life. I don't need that validation. I have friends, I have family, I have the royal we family who love me and who offer the sincere, genuine condolences that I really need. I don't need the empty, soulless, game-playing condolences of people who don't care. You follow me on that? And so, in time, the goal is to just be okay. You're going to see their stuff. You might come across them. You might bump into them at the store. You might see your family at some gathering again. You might see these people. So what you going to do? Nothing. Detach emotionally. Don't have expectations. Go into these situations saying, I in your mind, having no expectations, and don't be turned on by the charm. They've got that charm every now and then, but don't be put off by their negativity. We have to completely learn to have that whatever attitude. I know who I am. I've got my life. I've got my job. I've got my love. I've got my family. I've got my royal we community. Nothing nothing you can do is going to get me wrapped up in your craziness anymore. I don't care if you tell me you love me 20 billion times right here in front of me. I don't care if you tell me that you think I'm a loser. It doesn't matter anymore because you're not an active part of my life. We need to get to the point where the narcissists are no longer an active part of our mental, emotional lives. Period. End. Period. Eon. Right. All right. So Tanya asks, before we wrap it up, what's the showcase schedule this week? So unfortunately, I am back to being a part of an essential business. And so I will be out for this week. And I wish I could be here daily. I am still praying. So D, Tanya, Blue, hit those prayer requests, man. I would love for the Royal We, for the ministry to explode to the point where, again, we could do something daily things, right? And I believe that when the time is right, that will happen. But for right now, there's a lot of resources. The Facebook community is a great community to be a part of. There's a lot that you can watch. There's a lot of videos. There's a lot of channels. There's a lot of help in dealing with narcissistic abuse support out there, and so take advantage of all that. And when the ministry so allows, then we'll have a daily get together. All right, stay strong, stay safe, everybody. Think your life is a journey. Oh, I'm a sad panda. Tanya, don't be a sad panda. Don't be a sad panda, girl. Tanya, you can give me you give me a call, and you'll be good. You'll be good. D, love you too, artist, everybody. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. Blessings and lots of love. And we will chat next Monday night. I will be putting out some videos on the Organic Original Royal We channel this week, so be watching out for those as well. And we'll chat next Monday night. All right? All right. Good night, everybody. Music for Tanya right now, and for D. All right. I want to see some panda dance right now. Here we go. Boop 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 doop 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 boop boop. People are sleeping. Can I make sleepy noises like that? Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your ongoing support, and just thank you for being here. And that's just amazing. You're an amazing community. All right. Good night, everybody.